Growing up, my brother and I were very close, not just the usual sibling arguments and rivalries, but it was like we were each other's whole world. We were 2 years apart in age, and Liam was always protective of me. We weren't just brothers, we were best friends. But at some point, things started to change. It all started one rainy afternoon. My parents had gone to New York for the weekend to attend a family event far away, and my little sister had gone to a sleepover. It was just Liam and I. The silence in the house and the gloomy weather outside made everything feel different. We were in the living room watching some pointless TV program. At first, everything was normal, just two brothers hanging out. But then there was a silence between us, as if every word carried a meaning that shouldn't be said. I caught him looking at me in a way I hadn't seen before, like he was studying me, trying to figure things out. "Are you okay?" I asked, and he turned to me, hoping to break the tension that had suddenly settled in the room. There was an almost imperceptible smile on his lips. "Yeah, I'm fine, just thinking about it." Liam hesitated. "Have you ever noticed that something seems different between us? Like what's different about blinking my eyes?" He shrugged. "Look at my eyes. I don't know. We used to be so close, but lately I don't know. It's like there's something between us." A knot formed in my stomach, but I pushed it away. "We're still close," I said softly. "We've just grown up, that's all. It happens," I said, trying to reassure him and maybe myself. He didn't answer right away, and for a moment the only sound in the room was the faint sound of the rain pounding against the windows. Eventually, he sounded quieter again than before. "I miss the way we used to be." The way he said it sent a shiver down my spine, but I couldn't quite understand why. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. Instead, I looked at him, trying to read his expression, but it was as if he was deliberately hiding whatever it was he was feeling. After a long pause, he stood up. "I'm going for a drink. Do you want anything?" he said. I nodded, still trying to shake that strange feeling. Liam went to the kitchen and I stayed there. My discomfort was getting worse by the minute. I didn't understand why everything had suddenly gotten so intense, but it was undeniable. Something had changed between us. When Liam came back, he handed me a glass of water. Although I hadn't asked for it, our fingers touched as he took it and I flinched. I hadn't expected the electric shock I felt at the contact. "I'm sorry," he murmured, but his eyes were watching my reaction intently. "It's okay," I said, quickly setting the glass down on the table and standing up. Suddenly, I felt like I needed some air. "I think I'll go upstairs for a bit." Liam nodded, not saying anything, but I could feel his eyes on me as I walked past. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I felt heat spread throughout my body. I wasn't sure if it was embarrassment or something else. I closed the door to my room upstairs and leaned back, trying to calm my racing heart. I didn't know what was going on, or why everything between us suddenly felt so charged. All I knew was that something had changed, something I didn't know if I was ready for or not. I found myself pacing around my room, replaying the last moments over and over in my head. Something felt wrong, or maybe it was right, but it felt wrong, like walking on the edge of a cliff. There was the thrill of danger under your feet. I tried to focus on other things, but my mind kept going back to Liam. His prolonged stare, the moment when the awkward tension between us touched our fingers. It all seemed so innocent, but at the same time, it wasn't. I could feel it in my bones. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall, hoping the silence in the room would help calm my mind. But it didn't. Instead, I kept thinking about how close we were, how much I trusted him growing up. We shared everything: secrets, stories, dreams for the future. He had always been my protector, my confidant, but now that connection felt complicated. My phone vibrated, distracting me from my thoughts. The moment was a message. Are you okay? This simple message made my heart beat faster, and I couldn't explain why. I hesitated before quickly typing a neutral reply. Yes, just tired. I put my phone away, thinking that would be the end of it. But less than a minute later, there was a knock on my door. Before I could answer, Liam walked in, his face serious. Are you sure you're okay? He asked. I nodded, leaning against the door frame, but the way he looked at me made me nervous. It wasn't like before. We could just exist in the same space and not overthink every look, every word. Now I was aware of everything, his presence, his voice, even the way he stood there watching me. Couldn't sleep? He asked. I shook my head, putting the glass aside. I didn't know what to say, being close to him. It felt different now, like an invisible thread was pulling us together. Whether I wanted it or not, the tension from before was still in the air, thick and heavy. I was thinking, he said. His voice was slow after a long silence. About what we talked about today, he said. I didn't answer, my heart beating in my chest, waiting for him to continue. I don't want to create distance between us, he said. His eyes were focused on mine. Whatever this is, I don't want distance between us. His words hung in the air, and I knew he was right. Whatever was going on between us, the unspoken feelings that surfaced today were dangerous. If we weren't careful, we could lose each other, and I didn't know how we could deal with that. I don't want that either, I said. But I don't know how we're going to fix this, I finally said, moving a little closer. Liam pulled his hand away, running a hand through his hair. Maybe we don't need to fix it. Maybe we should just talk, he said. I bit my lip hesitantly. Talk about what? He met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability in them. He's as confused as I am, he said. I'm not sure where the boundaries between us are anymore. It's about us, he said softly. Why everything feels different. I wanted to deny it, to say that everything was normal, that everything was fine, but I couldn't lie to him. We both knew the truth. Things had changed, and to pretend otherwise would only make things worse. I don't know, I said, my voice almost a whisper. I don't know what happened between us. He took another step, closing the distance between us, stopping only a few feet away from me. I don't know either, he said quietly, but I don't want to lose you. His words triggered an explosion of emotion in me, and I couldn't stop myself. I took his hand, such a small, simple gesture, but with a huge weight. I don't want to either, I said, finally moving a little closer. But I don't know how we can fix this. Liam pulled his hand away, ran his hand through his hair. Maybe we don't need to fix it. Maybe we should just talk, he said. I bit my lip hesitantly. Talk about what? He met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability in them. He's as confused as I am, he said. I'm not sure where the boundaries between us are anymore. It's about us, he said softly. Why everything feels different, I wanted to ask. I wanted to tell him that everything was normal, that everything was fine, but I couldn't lie to him. We both knew the truth. Things had changed, and to pretend otherwise would only make things worse. I don't know, I said, my voice almost a whisper. I don't know what happened between us. He took another step, closing the distance between us, stopping only a few feet away from me. I don't know either, he said quietly, but I don't want to lose you. His words created an explosion of emotion in me, and I couldn't stop myself. I took his hand, such a small, simple gesture, but with a huge weight. We had always been close. We had always leaned against each other, but this felt different. It was as if we were both balancing on the brink of something we didn't fully understand. For a moment we stood in the silent kitchen, hands clasped, as if frozen in time. I'm scared, I admitted, my voice shaking. I don't know where he's going. Liam squeezed my hand gently, his expression softening. Me too, but I'll never hurt you, he said. I promise, I just want to understand that. I nodded, but the fear and uncertainty was still there. I wasn't sure what it meant to understand or if we would ever get there. As I stood there with him, feeling the warmth of his hand, I realized that part of me didn't want to let go. I didn't want to lose him, and I wanted to go back to pretending that everything was okay. I trust you, I whispered, but I didn't know if I was saying it for him or for myself. He tried to smile, a small, sad smile, but that was enough. No matter what happened in that moment, I knew that we had to face everything together next. The uncertainty, the fear, the strange new feelings that were surfacing between us, all part of what we had to face. But for now, standing in the quiet, empty house, all I could do was hold on to the one person I had always trusted, my brother. The next morning, the weight of the night before still lingered. Liam and I pretended everything was normal, ignoring the unspoken tension. But the truth was that nothing felt the same. We sat across from each other at breakfast, the silence between us intense. In his eyes, like mine, I could see what had happened last night. Yet the question that hung in the air was, what are we now? How do we move forward without losing each other or crossing the boundaries we need to cross? How did we break the first silence? We'll be fine, he said softly. It was like he was trying to make himself more comfortable. I nodded, gave him a small smile. Yes, we will be, I said, but deep down I wasn't sure if that was true. The day passed in silence. The storm between us had subsided a little, but it had not completely disappeared. I didn't know what the future would bring, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The boundaries we once easily followed were now blurred, and whether we liked it or not, we had to find a way back or risk losing everything we had.